Nobody actually talks about how lonely transitioning can actually feel. What is up? I am Paristtmpped, Paris, T-T-M-P-P-E-D, T-T-M-P-P-E-D. And we back with a better video. And I'm here again with my front seat takes while I'm on my way to work in the treacherous blizzard. I was thinking to myself, like, I'm very blessed when it comes to my transition. I transitioned when I was in college. When I was in high school. Of course, I didn't medically transition until I was in college. But in terms of socially, how I presented, how I want people to address me, how I started to act and want to be seen in the world, yeah, I did it pretty early on in life. And in doing so, I gained a community. When I made sure that I stayed in clubs like GSA. I had a lot of LGBT plus friends. I was in the play. Even right now with me being open on my channel. But then I kind of zoomed out on different time frames in my transition where I was alone. And even though I had time, like I said, when I first did it, I was in high school. And no one talks about how when you're in places like high school, college, work, all that, you're in proximity areas where you're around so many people every day. And, a lot of times you're going to find at least one or two people that remind you of you or have aspects of yourself. So with me being in high school, I was meeting LGBT plus people. There was only me and one or two other trans people in the school. But in terms of LGBT plus and understanding the flag and who I am, there was a lot of us in the play and stuff like that. So it was easy for me to not feel alone because I was surrounded by a lot of quote unquote misfits who felt out of place, who accepted not really understanding their identity and who they were and were just finding themselves as well. A lot of times, LGBT plus individuals aren't as welcomed in communities. When I was younger, I found myself always kind of forcing myself to fit in. I was always the odd duck on some real shit, the black sheep. I think it was because, people were trying to not make me be included. I do think that just being LGBT plus, it might seem common on TV and online, but in real life, everyone is performing and being regular, quote unquote regular. Everyone's dressing to fit the mold, either dressing to impress, they're having a certain kind of personality type that's understandable, digestible. And when you're LGBT plus, you stand out unconsciously. It may not be the goal, but it's just by irony. Mixing up, cultures and mixing up so what men and women do and having attributes of the opposite gender or having attributes of the same sexuality, whatever the fuck. It's like having a fucking green thumb. It's hard to fucking miss. That's a hard example. It's like having green hair. It's hard to miss. It stands out as not of the norm. And with that happening, I do feel like, the community is just unfortunately put in this box and then left alone, bullied, picked on. They're set apart. They're discriminated against. They're bullied. They're judged. They're harassed. There's no safe environments for us a lot of times. And it can create this sense of loneliness and almost feeling like no one's on your side in the world. And I'm here to say that is a bit of an illusion. I do agree in my real life, it is hard to find people like me. And even when I find people like me, they're like their environment. Everyone is like the environment. I can't explain it. Everybody is their surroundings. So when we do finally meet these LGBT plus individuals, nothing is wrong with them, but then what ends up needing to happen is we end up needing to learn about these people. A lot of people come up to me and they want to hang out with me because they want me to be the version of myself that I am on social media. Not understanding that I'm who I am right now because I'm comfortable with myself. But if a stranger comes into my proximity, it's going to take a while for me to get to know you before I just give you all of who I am. And a lot of other times, people want me to just be who I am, even if we're misaligned. So they'll be around me, but we won't really have much to talk about. They won't understand my experience. Sometimes they'll even judge my experience. And then I have to kind of normalize their misunderstanding, and they just love hanging out around me. And even when we're around people, we feel this sense of loneliness. Now, what I've learned through that is you got to just be around people that understand you. It won't even always be LGBT plus individuals, but Like, you want to be around people that validate your experience and make you feel seen, heard, and felt. Don't be afraid of going to, this is one of your communities. I make this channel so that we can all have a space. When you go in the comment sections, everyone is sharing their stories. Everyone is open and honest and showing you that you're not alone in this, that this is only just an experience, that nothing is permanent, that you are loved, even if it doesn't seem that way. There's millions of people in this world that is feeling the same way as you, and not just LGBT plus individuals. Straight, freaking binary individuals that follow every norm has their own identity inside. We all love things. Some people like certain kind of TV shows. People who love anime is a great example. I'm not an anime watcher. No offense. I'll watch some animes, but it's not my favorite genre of, creative shows. So there's this whole community of people who love reading mangas and they have this mutual understanding in this language, and that they can be in this, and then they can go to this come over, hang out with me as someone who's more into reading and stuff like that, and they'll hear, or I'm into my own stuff, so now I'm talking about all this music shit and this and that and the fifth, and they might like music and stuff, but then when we go talk about anime, we both have nothing to talk about. And what I'm trying to say is, you're never really alone. You're only alone in maybe the way you choose to live and identify. A lot of times, your community may not only be the LGBT plus community, because a lot of the LGBT plus community we're all hidden within our own worlds. And of course, it takes people like me or people who organize events and spaces for us to all curate and find each other. But like anime people, you're going to have to go out and find your people. And until then, be okay with maybe having a bunch of friends who aren't into anime, but you all have other attributes and things that you love mutually. It really isn't about feeling alone. It's understanding that we all have our own identities outside of even what we self-express in terms of gender. This is deeper than just gender. It's about life. I used to feel alone because I wanted everybody to be like me. But it's going to be hard for me to find a whole bunch of trans people unless I'm going to a trans group. Because I live in a world where there's more than just trans people in it, The loneliness I do feel, of course, it turns in, a lot of that loneliness is because we're in a world where a lot of people not only don't understand us, but judge us. And that's when I say, of course, go online and find your communities. Go to those events, go to those spaces where you can find people like you. I made a video about LGBT plus black spaces versus just black spaces by themselves. And I do want to make another video for my podcast just discussing really just black spaces, just discussing how to find LGBT plus spaces all together. I'll break it down for y'all. But outside of that, a lot of times you'll find your people in other spaces. Because we're not all finding the LGBT plus spaces, we're not all allowed to be LGBT plus. A lot of us are in spaces for people that love anime, for people who love fashion, for people who love dance. If you go to dance, you'll probably find a lot of people who are like you. If you go to bands and concerts, you'll find people like you. A lot of us are not really just in the LGBT plus box because that box is sometimes hard to find. Do we still need more spaces? Absolutely, which is why I'm here. Should we still keep speaking up and being the voice? Absolutely, because I'm learning that a lot of us don't know it's okay to be us, and it is okay. If you enjoyed this conversation, you want to kind of talk more deeply about it, comment down below. Inclusive spaces. And until next time, I will be back with the daily front seat scoops. I actually really did enjoy having this conversation because I just realized, even for a long time I felt alone. But it was because I was searching for people like me, not realizing people like me are not searching for people like themselves. They're just in spaces that they love. And if I go to spaces that I love and I do the things that I love, I will find those like me in the meantime through proximity. It's a beautiful thing if you allow it to be. If you love talks like these, if you enjoy just having really deep conversations and actually finding a space where people get into the grits, the real grits, then I suggest you hit that subscribe button and share this with your friends that you think may benefit from watching these kind of videos. And until next time, peace!